Chapter 5, There's a Raccoon on My Camping Trip. The camping trip that I invited my sister from Australia to come along. And my sister is a model in Australia, and she's only used to wearing fancy clothes. And this is what she was wearing when she came on the camping trip. She had her nightie that was a very fancy nightie, light, and she had her hair in curlers, and she had pink fluffy slippers, and it actually, in the summertime, it snowed on our camping trip. And she was sharing a pup tent with a raccoon, 3 of us, and she was wearing that. Raccoon was wearing his fur, and I was wearing my winter clothes, basically. But first of all, I had to pick her up from the airport, and I had to take apartment to get ready. And that's going to be a problem too, because Tabasco lived with me in the apartment, and I hadn't told the landlady. And the landlady, well, I'll get to that in a minute. But Tabasco I kept it very tidy, but she was not used to having a raccoon in an apartment. She never even met a raccoon. She came from Australia. And this is the kind of thing that Tabasco did. I'll read a paragraph from the book. He tipped over the waste paper basket 12 times, and I cleaned it up 12 times, till I realized that playing feelies with crumbling paper and muffin cups and stubby pencils and used pens could keep him occupied for hours, leaving me time to do my own stuff at the computer. And he pilfered my purse, and he spread the contents over the floor, and that kept him busy for another couple of hours, even longer if he decided to take something to his Chesterfield catch. And he pulled down clothes from their hangers in the office closet, and that filled in a few more minutes, as he's throwing books on the floor and tearing up invoices off book packages. That's what he kept himself to keep himself busy at the computer. After a day of sitting at a typewriter, my legs feel like curdled jelly, and I need exercise too. So Tabasco would tempt me into playing with him by leaping onto my lap, clawing his way to my shoulder, pulling my hair, jumping down to the floor again, rolling over, inviting me to tickle his tummy. So this was the kind of place that my sister would have to stay for a few days, living with a raccoon. I'll read one more paragraph. Tabasco added variations to our game of hide and seek by flying onto the tables, slithering down the shiny countertops, vaulting into shelves, pulling the phone off the hook, dragging the rugs down the corridor, and often his finale was dashing to my office desk, bounding onto the shelf above my typewriter, tipping the teapot onto the keys. And if I had no time to rewrite one of my university reports, I would have to add a note to the teacher at the end of a soggy page. I'm sorry, Tabasco did this to my report. So that was the kind of place that my sister was coming home to. Now, I had not told that I had a raccoon to the landlady. And when I went to book that apartment, the landlady said, I don't allow cats. Oh, I have no cat, I said. I don't allow dogs. Oh, I don't have a dog. She never asked me, did I have a raccoon? So I didn't have to lie about that. So I was smuggling Tabasco into my 3rd floor apartment at the bottom of Simon Fraser Hill when I went to university. And I was just bringing her in with hiding her in the groceries as I crept past the landlady's door. Then when I went to pick up my sister from the airport, the landlady was waiting for us, at the door before I could get my sister to come in. And she came with an eviction notice. So I've been picking up from my sister from Australia at an airport to take her on a camping trip, and I was going to be evicted. Well, that couldn't happen. So I'll read one paragraph from that. The landlady was waiting for us at the door when we arrived at the apartment. The owner of the building, a man, stood beside her. I'd never seen him before. He looked like a very important person, and he'd come to give me notice. We've been told you have a raccoon living here, the landlady said grimly. People have been complaining that they are not allowed to have pets, so why should you? Come inside and look for yourself, I said disarmingly. There's no raccoon here. I had for one day and night, I had given the raccoon to some people who liked him, that looked after him, so that I could take Jan to the airport without coming for a raccoon for at least a day before we went on the camping trip. So when she came in, when the landlady and the owner of the apartment came in, it was just perfect. And she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry for disturbing you." She apologized. "I was really expecting a mess, but you keep your place better than the other tenants." "Well, I try hard," I said truthfully. And you have to really try hard when you live with a raccoon. She said, "I really like having you as a tenant," the landlady continued at the door. "You're a quiet student, you live alone, you have no late parties, and you keep the place so neat. The tenants say you're a writer too." Obviously, she hadn't read my books, and maybe she'll get to read this one. So another part I'll read to you is when we go to the... So I said to Jan, "We're going to go to the Rockies for our camping trip. Get ready." "Rockies?" she said. "If I wanted to see rocks, I would have stayed in Australia." So I had to explain that we had the Rockies in Canada are a little bit different. So we went to the tent, and I'll read the last part. The next morning, it snowed. Having lived in Canada for half of my life, snow didn't excite me, though it was a surprise to see it in summer. But for Jan and Tabasco, it was their first experience. So while I struggled with bacon and eggs on the campfire, they both ran around, squealing in excitement and sticking their tongues out to catch the falling flakes. Jan forgot about cold and her ladylike ways as a model, and she scampered about in the snow in what she was wearing, which was a negligee and curlers, yelling, "Snow! Snow! Snow! I've never seen snow!" Tabasco, more suitably dressed in fur, romped beside her, chittering and sneaking as the snow piled up.